honestly, I don't remember exactly how I found your Facebook group, but I found it. I think it was while I was in the process of making a learning book for our band. I was just looking for like, what are
Okay.
other people doing? What are some good learning strategies? I often have private students too, and I often feel a little self conscious about the fact that like there are other teaching methods that I'm finding all the time that are like better or things that I never thought of, and so I'm always looking for tricks and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But before we dive
Sure.
into what your Facebook group is, I'm curious about you. Give me a little biopic. Where did you grow up, and when did you first hear bagpipes and stuff like that?
Sure. Well, I grew up in a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona called Glendale. It's on the west side of Phoenix. And our family joined a local bagpipe band that was started by a friend of ours. And so my dad picked up the bagpipes. I did the side drums. My one brother did the tenor drum. The other brother did the bass drum. And my brother-in-law, who had spent a couple of years in Scotland, went. He was the other side drummer and then the drum major.
So,
My
was your family
dad.
making up the
This
bulk of the
is
band?
this is. We were a significant part of it.
Yeah.
I think there were probably about 30 of us, and we were 4, 5. Because my sister danced too, so we were. Yeah, we were a significant part of it. So my dad, and this is like 1968,
Mm-hmm.
my dad got a mail order catalog for Army surplus from the UK and bought a set of bagpipes.
Oh, from Army
And
surplus. Wow, that's awesome.
yep. And it's kind of interesting because they are very old. They're marked with the 91st Regiment, and I did the history on it. And the 91st Regiment and the 93rd Regiment merged in 1880 to become the Argyll and Sutherland Regiment. And so these have got elephant ivory on them, and they're cocos wood, and they were made before 1880.
That's
So,
amazing. So you have your
uh,
dad's pipes now?
yeah,
And do you keep them under
yes,
glass, or do you
yes.
get them out and play them? Because that's an old set. That's
Uh,
pretty cool.
uh, no, I attempt to play them,
Yeah. Don't wait. That's all the more any
but
of us do, right?
yeah. So circumstances changed, and we left the band in the early 70s. But as a scrawny little 10-year-old side drummer, I always wanted to, when I grow up, I'm going to play the bagpipes. But as priorities changed, it kind of faded. And I think the last time I heard my dad play the bagpipes was in the mid 1980s. Fast forward, my dad passed away in 2012, and in 2015, my daughter was getting married, and she had always wanted to have a Scottish themed wedding. The fact that the young man that she was marrying's last name was Irvine, which is Scottish, kind of worked into the whole thing.
Yeah.
So we were
Maybe not a
preparing
deciding
for
factor. I'm
the
sure he was
wedding.
a great guy otherwise, but works out, right?
Oh yeah, that was purely happy coincidence.
Yeah.
So I'm talking with my family about preparation for it, getting kilts and everything, and my oldest sister said, "Well, do you want Dad's Scottish stuff?" And I went, "Yeah." So she sent me it, and I opened it up, and there's his Glengarry, and there's his horsehair sporran, and his skene and all these little bits and pieces of his bagpipes. And I'm going like, oh my gosh, we still have these? Because I thought they were long gone.
Hey, and I
So
don't want to
all of a
mess up
sudden I have,
the magic of this moment in the story because I don't doubt that was awesome to open that up and find the treasure. But I am curious, how did that
yep,
horsehair sporin smell?
it was okay.
Was it? That's good to hear
I
because
mean,
I've had some terrible experiences with the smells of horsehair sporins myself, so I'm glad to hear that it wasn't too bad.
well, let's put it this way: it had been stored in Arizona for 40 years, and it was dry, so
It was all
it
dried out.
didn't
Yeah.
have any. Yeah, Matter of fact, I had to steam it to get it straightened out. But
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
anyway,
Better than hanging up in Florida for 40 years.
where the white part turns green.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, I had my dad's bagpipes, and I'm going like, wow, I can actually fulfill this dream of mine. Now, they were in pretty sad condition, as you can imagine, sitting in a box for 40 years. But so I started looking at them, and there were some parts that needed to be replaced, and the middle section of the bass drone was missing. So I went, oh, okay, well, I'll have to pay some money to get that fixed. And so I got them restored, about $600 to get a new bag and the various replacements, but got them back to playing condition.
Awesome.
And in the meantime, I'm going like, I don't know how to play the bagpipes, so I got to get myself a chanter. And so I looked around and found that the best one that I determined was a Dunbar extra long chanter out of polypenco, the plastic. Yeah. And so I bought that, and I'm going, okay, my next problem is I don't read music. I mean, I'd taken piano lessons as a child, but I didn't remember anything. And so I'm looking at downloaded sheet music, like for Amazing Grace, obvious first choice. And I'm going like, trying to memorize the notes and the positions and going like, so I did what every other bagpipe student will, whether they'll admit it or not, started writing the letter names underneath the notes.
Yeah.
And that helped some. And then I got a tutor, member of the Utah Pipe Band in Sandy, and he was telling me how to do things, and he's excellent. But I was intimidated by 4 lines of music, and I'm going like, how am I going to memorize it? And he says, well, see this block of notes here?
Yeah.
See over here? It's the same block of notes. I said, oh, there's sections that repeat. Cool. And so I took a highlighter pen and marked those different colors to match them up.
Made it feel less daunting,
So
right?
that's how I started. Yes, it did. It's like, oh, well, if I can remember this little block, all I have to do is play it again here and here.
It's a good strategy. I mean, there are some tunes out there that you really are only learning 4 measures of music. It just gets redone like 12 times.
Yep. That's true. So, doing it by hand was messy, time-consuming, and I had to have it printed out. So I thought, there's got to be a better way. And so I went, okay, well, if I take the PDF or JPEG of the sheet music and I cut and paste each line of music, I can put it into a Word document, and then I can type in the note names, and then I can do highlighting to do the color blocks. And so I did that for, Skyboat Song and my dad's favorite, Morag of Dunvegan and Scott and the Brave and all these, half done or so. And it was helping me. Well, I was also a member of an online group for bagpipe tutoring called Bagpipe Master.
Oh, sure,
that's
yeah.
run by a gentleman by the name Josh Anderson.
Yeah, and let me just say, they've got some of the coolest T-shirts in the world on, I think they have them on Cafe Press. Really cool T-shirts. Lots of cool, like, skull motifs and stuff. I really like that stuff.
Yeah. And I've actually had the opportunity to meet Josh because he lives here in Utah, and we met at the Scottish Festival in Salt Lake and got to meet his wife and kids, and he's a really great guy.
Oh, yeah, and yeah, actually, from what I understand, it might actually be his wife who designs all the awesome T-shirts, so really all praise goes to her.
Oh, yes, she does. She is amazing. And they've done some videos where she did the singing, and she's got a beautiful voice.
Yeah, and I'm
So,
sure
yeah,
he's a
they're
great
people.
guy himself too. But maybe most of the
Oh,
a lot
yes.
of the stuff that's admirable about his product might actually be more the work of his wife than him. He just plays the pipes, right?
They're a great team. They're
Yeah.
a great team. Super
Yeah.
nice people. But so I asked Josh, say, would it be all right if I posted these? These have helped me. Can they? Maybe they'll help someone else. And of course, Josh says, great. Anything to help people learn how to play. And so I posted it on the Facebook page for Bagpipe Master and got a positive response to it because there are other people who are just learning. And then I started getting requests. Oh, do you have this? Do you have that? And it's like, okay. So I started finding sheet music and doing this thing in Word. And it was kind of time consuming. I mean, I was taking an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the length of the tune, to create these Word documents. And then I'd save them as PDFs and post it. And so I got a couple of dozen tunes. And I got thinking, I wonder if there might be other groups of bagpipe players on Facebook that might appreciate this. And so I went to this other one that will remain nameless, and you'll understand why. And I posted them, and the response was not positive. I got, "Nay, laddie, that's not how it's done.
Yeah.
It's only 9 notes. How hard could it be?
Yeah.
And I'd
Sure.
wrap the knuckles of any student if they did that." I'm going, okay, this obviously is not the right venue for it.
Yeah.
So then I went, well, why don't I create my own venue? And that's when I created the Newbies Annotated Pipe Sheet Music group.
Yeah, which is
And I
now.
thought, if I could have,
No, go ahead. Finish. Yeah, tell me.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say you got about
Which,
2,000. I'm sorry, man. It's our delay. We've got a delay going on, and so we keep interrupting each other. I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
You go on.
No problem. But yeah, so I made that, and I thought, yeah, I can post these up so that people can have them. And I thought, if I had like 30 to 50 followers, that'd be fantastic. So I set it up in August of 2017, and I got 65 people the very first day. Absolutely blew me away.
Yeah.
And it just kept on growing and growing, and I kept on getting requests. And so I looked up from some reliable sources, what are the best beginner tunes? And so I started annotating those and posting those, and it just kept on growing and growing. And then the real breakthrough was I got contacted by a gentleman out of Scotland by the name of Kirk Potter. And he had this software online that was for writing sheet music for bagpipes specifically. And it was called Bagpipe Writer.
Oh yeah,
Well,
sure.
Kurt approached me and said, would it be all right with you if we made an arrangement where I can give you a subscription to my software and you allow me to advertise on your group? And I said, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, Kurt was absolutely amazing because he would customize his software to accommodate what I was asking for. Like, can you have the font this size and this particular font? And can you change this? Can we add in notation for the embellishments, not just the note names, but
yeah.
what is the name of the embellishment? And so he did all that. And he was fantastic. He accommodated every request that I made. It was unbelievable. And so I went from having to annotate a sheet of music from an hour and a half to 2 hours. Well, if I had the BWW file for it, I could annotate the thing in like 5 to 10 minutes.
You're getting it down to a science, huh?
Because all I have to do is dump the BWW file in there, and boom, and I was able to customize the settings so it would automatically annotate it just the way I want it. The only thing I had to do was go in and identify blocks and manually identify blocks of repeats to color code them.
Yeah.
And so it was a piece of cake process. Well, that really revolutionized the whole thing, because then I could just do this, and I went from having a couple of dozen tunes to currently I've got somewhere close to 300 tunes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I was looking at the Facebook
requests.
group, and I was looking down the documents and just trying to count them. I was like, I don't think I can count these in time for the episode. So I was wondering how many you had on there.
No. Well, about 300, and I do requests, and the thing of it is I have some requests for some tunes that I cannot find. And I go to my sources, and I have a huge library of BWW files, thousands of them. Plus, I can go to Pipe Tunes and find it. And, but there's some tunes where it's like, sorry, can't help you.
Yeah.
Can't find anything.
Yeah.
But there are members who will say, oh, I got that, and they'll post it, and then I can take a screenshot of it and then manually put it into, the Bagpipe Writer software, once Kurt had it, to his satisfaction perfected, he changed the name to Assembly. And so that's what it is now, is Assembly, not Bagpipe Writer. But it's an absolutely fantastic program, and I can input manually the tune relatively quickly. I mean, it might take me 20 to 30 minutes to manually put it in if I don't have a BWW file.
Yeah.
So I've been able to collect all these, but I had to kind of draw the line, because there's some tunes that I'm just looking at and going like, this is not a beginner's tune.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if you're looking at it and going like, does the person who needs this annotated really ready to play it anyway?
Exactly. And so I look at it going like, I'm pretty willing to do most tunes, but there are a few of them, Thunderstruck being a perfect example. It's like, I'm not annotating that.
Yeah, you need to come up with some new stuff for the accidentals and stuff too to stick in there.
It's like, yeah. And then there's other requests for tunes that are not bagpipe tunes. And I said, if you can find it for me, great. And I've had a few where they gave it to me, and my mother-in-law is a phenomenal piano organ player, and she taught me how to transpose music.
Yeah.
And so I was able to take some tunes and transpose them. Now, there are, of course, limitations, and if I can just take it and shift it up or down to get it in the range, that's easy. And then I can just add in embellishments as I see fit. But, obviously there's some tunes that are way out of range, and I'll just gotta go, I'll pass on that one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm very rudimentary on my transposing skills, so.
Well, and aside from that, there are some songs that just you can't quite get them to work on bagpipes. I've certainly had a few like requests for funerals and stuff like that. It's like, well, look, I want to do what you want, but I don't think you want this. It's not going to sound good.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
And sadly, the Star Spangled Banner is one of those tunes.
Oft requested, but just doesn't work.
Well.
Yeah.
Oft requested, but you cringe when you hear it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh, Canada is the same thing. The Canadian national anthem does not play well.
Yeah.
And so, but I have a very libertarian approach to it. You don't tell me what to play, I won't tell you what to play.
Sure.
And so
yeah.
if I can transpose it, or if I can provide it, I'm not going to tell somebody whether they should or shouldn't play it.
Yeah, you can leave that up to them.
Of course, I joke. Yes, of course, I've joked because I'm not a very good pipe player. I will fully admit that. I've said my most requested song, but I can't seem to find it, is, can you play Anywhere But Here? I don't know that tune.
I hope
I
hope Eric Evenhouse is listening right now. That would be a great tune name.
Oh, yes. And, of course, there is the tune that's actually a tune, Over the Hills and Far Away. That's
Yeah.
I said that's the Scottish social distancing anthem.
Yeah. That's
But,
great.
So anyway, I have done this, and I've had people say, "Oh, you should print a book and stuff like this." And I'm going like, I'm not in this for monetary gain. I'm doing this purely out of love of bagpipe music, and also I cobbled together this that works, and with Kurt Potter's software made it possible to do all these tunes. I have no interest in printing it out. I will give it away for free happily. If somebody can benefit from what I've done to help them. And I've had some great responses. The one that's my absolute favorite was a gentleman who said, "I'm 70 years old. I am dyslexic. I've always wanted to play the bagpipes, and I can't read music. And I was going to give up on it until I found McNewbies. And because of what you've done in McNewbies, I can learn music. I can do it.
Yeah.
Thank you." And I'm going like, "Oh, you just made my day, my week, my year."
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Being able to help somebody else play, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah. So what do you think is? Here's the thing. The method is like you have put together a great method to help people learn how to play music, and it doesn't exist in a vacuum. This is the highlighting sections thing is something that comes up in, other people have also found this. It's definitely a legit system. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Stephanie Burns has written books about learning bagpipe music with plenty of science behind them, and highlighting sections is one of the things that she advocates. So there's definitely, aside from like direct feedback from people who use it, who say this is helping me to learn my music. So what do you think is behind the sort of kickback that we might say the traditionalists might like not want this? Like why do you think that is? What do you think is the fight against it?
Oh, that's easy, because they've spelled it out to me.
Oh, okay,
Saying,
so you know.
This is... Oh, yes.
You know very well.
Yes. I've had people who have argued this is terrible because it's a crutch and they'll never learn how to read music. And they'll never be able to play without this annotation. And I'm going like, no bagpiper ever performs with sheet music in front of them.
Right.
Ever. You practice with it, but you never perform with it. It's got to be muscle memory in your hands and in your brain. How it gets into your brain is up to the individual. And for example, with me, I couldn't read music. I did this enough times, as you can imagine. I don't need the annotation anymore.
Yeah.
I can read music. I didn't try to learn. It came naturally. I refer to what I've got as bagpipe training wheels.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So you can get to a point where you don't need them anymore, and then you take them off. But if you tried to learn how to ride a bike without the training wheels, you're gonna get skinned knees and elbows a lot.
Yeah.
And so this is purely I'm not saying it's a better method. It's merely an alternative.
Sure, yeah. It's not like you're trying to
My
remove all other
goal
methods.
would be no. I don't say this is superior. It's just another method. And the way I look at it is I would be thrilled if every person who's ever used McNewbies eventually didn't need it anymore.
Sure, yeah.
That would be mission accomplished.
It's funny to me because like I do appreciate like the value of preserving traditional methods and stuff. There is a beauty to that, and it is valuable. You don't want to throw that out because it's been around for a long time, and there's a reason for that. But I can't help think about, and I don't know if it's like a real quote that can actually be attributed to him, and I can't remember if it's attributed to Plato or Aristotle, but one of these early greats in philosophy and storytelling who had this opinion that reading and writing were going to rot people's brains. Like, it was just the worst possible thing, this technology of reading and writing, because if you weren't memorizing, right, if you didn't have these strategies for memorizing, these sonnets or, these long stories and stuff, these different methods, memory palaces and stuff in your brain, then you're going to fall apart. And so don't you go learning how to read, it's no good. And I can't help but think, like, then would we not have seen a similar shift from like the oral method of teaching bagpipes, the cantor, right, to when written music became a readily available technology? Would there not have been many traditionalists who would learn a certain way, who said, don't learn to play from sheet music, you got to learn from cantor? Now, don't get me wrong, I want to learn to sing cantor. I'm all about it, so let's preserve the tradition. But at the same time, why not use these tools that are available to us? And so then now we have the traditionalists who say standard written music is the traditional way to do it. Don't go changing it. And it's like, man, it's like, what's wrong with, training wheels, as you say? If it gives a person a more smooth path, it removes barriers for some people, like the one guy you mentioned, who otherwise might not be able to attack this in any way. Well, it's nothing but good.
Right. Well, that's the way I look at it, is if it can help somebody so that they can play better or that they can play at all, it's worth it.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
I just, and I have said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm not very good at playing the bagpipes. I will not play for anyone.
Not for any amount of money either, huh?
No. There's the old saying, is those that can do and those that can't teach. Well, my corollary to that is those who can't do or teach, annotate.
That's wonderful. I like that. And it's a very true thing that sometimes the best pipers in the world are also great teachers, but not always. Often some of the best players, and this is applicable to anything, the people who are best at it aren't necessarily equipped to be a good teacher. And sometimes the best teachers aren't the best at the thing they're teaching. And that's just kind of the way it works. It's kind of separate skill sets, though there's crossover. And,
oh, yeah.
And so to admit and insert, here's a third one, those who can't do either, is to annotate. That's you got a beautiful attitude about it, Dan. I admire that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it kind of reminds me what you're saying about knowing subject and being able to teach a subject. Reminds me of in college, I was taking an algebra class, and the professor had been doing it for as long as algebra had been invented, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
And he had gotten very impatient with students. And so we'd come into class, and the first thing we'd do is go over homework. And someone would ask a question, and invariably his response was he would shrug his shoulders, sigh, roll his eyes, and say, obviously, and then he'd go to the board and write out the answer.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to say, excuse me, sir, it may be obvious to you because you've been doing it since it was invented, but nothing's obvious to us because we're new to the subject.
Yeah.
He had forgotten what it was like to be new to the subject.
Yeah.
And that's why he was not a good teacher, because he had no compassion, no empathy for someone who none of this was obvious.
Yeah, when you're like an expert in a field, you start kind of being like, why don't you just get it? Here's how you do it. Do it.
Yeah, exactly. And the best teachers are the ones who remember vividly what it was like to be in the position that the students are in.
Yeah.
Because then they can sympathize, empathize, and remember the struggles that they had. Or if they're really good and they didn't have struggles, they can still be able to be supportive of people that it's new to them.
Yeah.
And bagpipes, they say, it's only 9 notes, how hard can it be? It says, yeah, it's only 9 notes, but it's the toughest 9 notes in all of music.
Yeah, that's the truth, especially throw in all those embellishments, man. It gets real complicated. Then you start blowing up the bag. Yeah, it's another layer. Yeah, not to pat myself on the back or anything, but I often, when I have students who are transitioning to bagpipes, or even when they're first getting started on the chanter, just to kind of remind myself what parts of this are hard, I'll just put my bagpipes on the wrong shoulder and just try to play that way and see what it feels like. Or I'll switch, which hand is the top hand on my chanter, and then play through the exercise and be like, I see how this part would be really hard, so I'll help the student at that part. I would imagine that in a similar way, you could take unannotated sheet music and just turn it around upside down. Now try to read it upside down and see why annotation would make such a huge difference. Just to get started. I mean, honestly, like, if the criticism is this is a crutch, that's actually probably accurate. It's training wheels, it's a crutch, but it's a crutch of eventually walking without it, as you say, eventually not needing it.
Yep. And if the traditional work methods work for you, great. Intended for people who have no problem with the tradition, purely for the people who with it. And I want them to be able to. I don't want it to be a loose group where the only way that you can do it is if you do it this way. Say, it's an alternate method, and if it works for you, great. And if it doesn't, find something else that does.
Yeah.
If you don't like my method, I'm not offended.
Yeah, you consider the creation of things like the violin, the guitar, piano, and how many learning methods there are. And then you consider how rare to find a piper in the world by comparison. Like, are we keeping people out who otherwise would be coming into the art if we're, insist on one way to learn and do it?
Oh yeah, I'm sure because they don't have that. And I've known some people who have transitioned from other musical instruments. I come to bagpipe, huh?
Yeah.
Because, for example, A is typically in the classic stuff 40 hertz.
Right.
And bagpipe, it's not quite the...
And not quite anything, really. It's whatever
your president says it is today.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 472, it's 478,
And then whatever the sun decides to do it during the day.
Very true. It's a unique instrument. And that's what part of the appeal to it, as far as I'm concerned.
That's true. Absolutely. I agree with you. To what degree has this practice of receiving requests and annotating music sort of opened your eyes to bagpipe music that you never would have otherwise encountered?
Well, it has. I mean, there's the non-traditional stuff that is always interesting, and some of it translates very easily, and there's other that flat out I try it, give it my best effort, and when I listen to it playing back on assembly, I'm going like, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to come back and say, hey, I tried, but did not come out good. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then there's all the other styles that are more challenging. Pibroch. I am. I'm sure people will boo and hiss at me, but I'm not a fan of Pibroch.
It's understandable. I think that if anyone is honest, I don't know if anybody loved Pibroch the first time they heard it. I think it takes some time and work to get to where you can love Pibroch.
Taste.
It is.
Yeah. And the tunes that I like best are almost all slow marches. I mean, there are a few that are the quick marches that are really good. Black Bear is a favorite. But jigs and reels, they're not my style.
Mm-hmm.
But, if somebody loves them, more power to them. And if I can annotate it, I'll annotate it for them. Like I said before, I won't tell you what to play.
Yeah.
And so I do it if I can.
Now, just to make absolutely sure that, and I'll put the link into the show notes, but I want to make absolutely sure everybody understands this is a Facebook group called McNewbies.
Yes.
Annotated bagpipe music, McNewbies Piper annotated sheet music.
That is correct.
And I will put a link in the show notes, so if anybody wants to go over there and check it out. You are pushing the threshold of 2,000 members there, so.
Well, I'm looking at it right now, and I don't have a current member request, but the growth as of, let's see, come on. As of the 26th is 1,981.
Awesome. That's
So,
amazing.
yeah,
So, so from your
we'll be
lofty
hitting.
goal of having 50 or 60 followers, you've definitely blown that one out of the water.
Yes, yes. And I'm just amazed that it's been so well received. And it's interesting because I was thinking that I would get people in the United States, Canada, the UK, but I've got people from all over the world that are members. There's quite a significant part of them that are from Germany and Belgium, Australia and New Zealand. Those aren't so surprising, but yeah, I've got them from the Ukraine and Russia, and I'm just blown away by how widespread it's been and how well it's been received, and I'm very happy about that because if it can help other people, that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, well, it's proof of concept. The fact that it's popular, people are looking for it, people need it, they grab onto it when they find it. I don't mean to to mess things up chronologically, but I'm kind of curious. When you were younger playing side drum, was most of your family playing there at band practice and band events, or would your dad pop out the pipes and you get out the drum at home in the evenings and bug your neighbors and stuff? Yeah. It's kind of a dream of mine that as my kids get older, they'll all also play drums and pipes, and that we'll have a tiny family pipe band in the backyard.
There you go. Yeah, my dad would put his earmuffs on. I'd put my earmuffs on, and we'd be in the family room, and he would help me practice. And I was young. I think when we started, I was like 9, almost 10. Little scrawny kid. I mean, the drum almost threw me off balance.
Yeah, did they? I'm not trying to say that you're old or anything, but did they have junior drums at the time? Because they have junior sized drums now that you can get, but I don't know if that's a recent invention or not.
No, I have no idea. But I'll tell you
you didn't have one. That's what really matters, right?
No, the support system that I see on modern drums for holding the drums is so much better than the wide white strap that went over my shoulder.
You had the sling.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sling is what we had. And if you were marching and not playing, you grabbed the drum and put it sideways to your side to march.
Right, hence
and
side drum,
that was
right?
awkward too.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, it was a challenge for a little kid like me at that time. But no, we would practice once a week at the friend's house, and yeah, that was a bit of a challenge because the guy who started the band had been a drummer, and he was probably in his mid-40s, and he decided to pick up the drums. Problem was, he had hearing aids because he was profoundly deaf.
Oh, I see.
And
good match for a pipe band.
Yeah, I have to admit that I didn't appreciate bagpipe music until I heard real bagpipe music being played elsewhere.
Understandable.
Because
yeah.
when he would play, it was like the jokes about grabbing a cat by the tail.
Yeah.
And swinging around over your head.
Is the personification
it was
of that.
Terrible.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great experience. I mean, we marched in some of the small Arizona towns, 4th of July parades and stuff like that, and we would perform at various groups, functions, and stuff. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, but yeah, it wasn't easy being a little scrawny kid carrying around the side drum.
Yeah.
But
well, have you ever
it was a great experience.
Now, go ahead. Sorry, we keep interrupting. So it's that delay. Sorry.
And it was a great bonding experience for our family.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. And now you're in Utah. There are a few good bands around. Have you been tempted to lift some sticks or even take
Oh
your
yeah.
pipes out and go play with a band?
Well, actually, when I very first got into it, I kind of did my own little uh, survey of bands, and I went to Salt Lake Scott's, and I went to Wasatch District, and they're really good bands, but I just kind of felt like this wasn't a good fit for me. But
Yeah,
then I went to
I just
Utah Pipe
I,
Band.
I don't want to cut you off. I want you to keep going with that, but I do want to insert just to
No,
make sure it's clear what you're saying and what a lot of other people have said in interviews. Like, it's nothing personal. Like, there is a certain quality to any band that like you can just kind of feel like, oh, this one fits for me, this one doesn't quite fit for me, and it doesn't mean it's a bad band. It just means like, yeah, it's just like a fit
oh
thing.
no. Well, the way I've kind of viewed it is there are two different styles of pipe bands. There is the military style, which is understandable because so many pipe bands in the UK are regimental bands. And
Yeah,
so they
it's
have a
largely
very
born from a military tradition. Yeah.
style to them. Yeah. And that has fun. I have a great deal of respect for military. My dad was a paratrooper in World War II. Um, so there's nothing wrong with that. And that is a good style for, it's been emulated for worldwide for centuries, and it works. But then there's another style of band that I refer to as a clan band. It's more family oriented. And so when I dealt with in going to practices to kind of check them out, I felt that these other bands were more military style, and that works well for them. They're great bands. I have a lot of respect for them. But when I went to Utah Pipe Band down in Sandy, it had more of the clan band, family band, and quite literally, there are several families that comprise the core of it. The Barclays.
Yeah, the Barclays, of course.
It was founded, yeah, and they're great people, and they were very welcoming.
What are they, like the third generation of Barclays now running that band?
Yes.
They've been over there for they've been well established.
1937 was when they were established. But yeah,
That's an awesome heritage.
They were a great group, and with the several families that have multiple members in it, it felt very much like what I had experienced when I was younger. And I went, oh, this is more like it for me.
Yeah, that's the fit you were looking for.
Yeah, and so I attended and got to know people. My instructor was a young man who was an amazing piper, and he was in high school, and he said, hey, you want to learn how to play? I want to learn how to teach. How about we get together? I won't charge you anything, and I'll teach you how to play, and I'll learn how to teach. And we became good friends, and he was an excellent instructor and really helped me a lot. And I'm still really good friends with an awful lot of members of the Utah Pipe Band.
Yeah.
I moved recently up to Centerville, and I found out that the Wasatch District Band is kind of centered in Bountiful.
Yeah, that's right.
And so
they do have practice locations all over just because they're so big. But yeah, Bountiful's kind of the hot spot.
Well, yeah, but during the warm weather they will practice in Bountiful Park.
Yeah.
And so I've gone over there a couple of times. I met some people, and when the weather warms up, I'd like to go over there and visit with them some more. But
yeah.
They're a great band as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, there's one small band up at Utah State in Logan. There's Wasatch District, Salt Lake Scott's, Utah Pipe Band, and then Garden
Yeah, Garden Valley and what is now Garden Valley Pipe Band, and then what used to be the Mountain Timpanogos Pipe Band is now the Thomas Cordner Memorial Pipe Band, and then White Peaks, of course.
Oh, okay. White Peaks, that's the other one that I was.
Oh, and actually Ben Lomond, I think Ben Lomond might have gone from being in a high school band to a community band in the last few years. I'm not totally positive about that, though. And then, of course, there's Payson High School Pipe Band as well. I think that's all the bands.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's all of them in the state. I'm going to feel terrible if I missed a band. That would be embarrassing.
There may be some down Cedar City. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. These are just northern Wasatch Front is what I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Well, it's where the majority of the population in the state is, of course. So makes sense. That's where everything is focused.
Very, very
you look at a map of Utah, and then you realize that, like, okay, 90% of the population is in this little corridor right here. Got some open space. Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Well, cool. Well, Dan, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today. And in the show notes is the connection to the Facebook group. So anybody interested, hop over there. It's a really cool group. It's really fun to see the requests that go in and stuff. And the system, I think, is very useful. I after seeing it, both seeing it personified by, exemplified by you, and also reading Stephanie's book, I've started highlighting our band set of tunes for myself to try to learn it more quickly, to memorize it more quickly. And I think there's a lot of merit to this method. So that's just me giving it a plug.
Well, thank you. I can't say that I invented it, because it existed before. I think the thing that I did that innovated it, and it's a small thing, was getting it into the electronic age of being able to, instead of it being Sharpies and highlighter pens, marking up paper sheet, is being able to get it done. So there's a PDF of it, so that you can print it out and it's there. You don't have to do anything. It's already there.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I could say is an innovation on my part. And I also will credit Kurt Potter of Assembly as being a huge contributor. I never would have gotten where I am now if it wasn't for his contribution, and he's just absolutely fantastic. And his software is, okay, I'm biased, I'll admit.
Oh, yeah, but I'm familiar with it. It's excellent.
And E-pipes and it is excellent, and he keeps on improving it. I mean, the fact that he's been able to add in playing multiple pipes, so you can do parts, and being able to do the drums and all that, it's an amazing software, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it is excellent.
Yeah, McNewbies flat out would not be what it is now if it wasn't for his contribution.
Yeah, sustaining the kind of growth that you've seen in the group probably wouldn't have been possible.
Oh, no.
Or you'd have a much longer backlog of requests.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely true. And it is funny, because it is harder with the requests that are being made. It is harder to find BWW files or even sheet music that can be transposed, because people will ask for tunes that are flat out, like I've had requests for Beatles tunes and Elvis Presley tunes and stuff. And some of them, it's easy to do. Others, it's like I give up after trying it for an hour or more, because it's like, this is not going to come together well.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I've gotten to the point where I'm familiar enough with it to be able to recognize that and not put any more effort into it.
Right, you don't burn a bunch of